and more. Brands like Mannington, Shaw, Tarkett, Beaulieu, and Flexitech. Quality brands, excellent customer service, combined with 40 years experience is why they say you can walk on our reputation. See Bill and Lucy at Perry's Floors and More, 127 West Market Street, Princeton.
Okay, we are back. It is 8:31. It's nice and sunny finally today, but, the cold weather is back. We're out of the 60s for a little while. Maybe we'll find some 60-degree weather again soon. We're joined by Code Enforcement Officer Dickie Thomas. Good morning, Dickie.
Good morning, Mitzi.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning. I appreciate your time. Now, Code Enforcement, that's a fairly new program here in Princeton, correct?
Right. They've had some form of code enforcement for years. But as far as full-time code enforcement, it's been about a year and a half now for full-time.
Okay. And walk me through the process of, we were talking about properties that have reached the point where they need to come down. We can't do anything else. This is the decision. Walk me through the process of how we get there.
Okay. Well, first off, we will issue the property owner a notice of violation. And that notice of violation will give them X number of days to remedy the problem. Either fix up the property or, by city code, if the restoration of the property exceeds 50% of the value of the property, the city can demand that you tear the property down. If not, we do have the right to go in and to start abatement issues on that. So, but we do not generally want to do that. We want to let the property owner make up their own mind what they would like to do with the property. But the bottom line is they have to do something with the property. They either got to fix the property up, fix the code violations, or remove the property.
Okay. And so you said that if it costs more than 50% to fix it up, then it's considered. Mm-hmm. Where does the property value come from? Like, where does that amount? Who determines that amount?
Generally from the PVA assessment. KRS statute says we can go by the PVA assessment of the property. Okay.
So would I have to pay to have that assessed, or?
Oh, no. That is public record.
Okay.
We have an online connection with the PVA office and the Property Valuation Administrator's office, and we can look up any and every property within the city limits of Princeton.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be how current does that have to be?
Well, before we go into an abatement process, we always call the office because some of the information, some of the properties may have sold, there may be a deed in the works. So before we go into, serious abatement procedures, we always call PVA office, go check, deeds, make sure, we're connected with the proper property owner.
Yeah. Okay. But I guess I was asking. So the PVA determines the value of the property. But those records, is that when I first purchased my property? Is that do they go back out when you start looking? When does that property get evaluated?
Well, generally the PVA assessments, so I understand, I'm not an agent of that office, so I understand it's based on the last purchase price. And then I think at different times the PVA office may go out and reassess properties. Okay.
All right. Now, you mentioned this word abatement. What does that mean?
Abatement means compliance with the law. It means it's remedying the problem is basically what abatement means. We'll issue a notice what city codes that is being violated and that you must fix the problems that I've given the citation for or the notice of violation. You must correct those deficiencies.
Okay, so most likely if it's gotten to the point where it's dilapidated and unlivable, the property owners are not really paying attention to it. They're not living there, maybe not even local.
That's not necessarily the case. We do have properties in town that have holes in the roof, virtually 3 rooms leaking water, people still living in them. Residential properties are tough because basically in the state of Kentucky, Kentucky law views that a man's home is his castle. So if you cross that line, you better have a darn good reason why. So it's all about due process, and proper remedy. So property owners have rights. We're very conscientious of protecting the property owners' rights. They don't agree with my assessment, they can file an appeal with the Code Enforcement Board. I try to interpret the ordinances to the best of my ability and apply the ordinances for compliance. As far as a house, you ask about where do we get to that point of tearing the house down. City has an ordinance, generally it is called what makes a property fit for human habitation. If I cite a property for being unsafe or unfit for human habitation, there's a certain set of guidelines I have to follow, and that property has to fall within those guidelines. So it's not just my opinion. This is all based on city ordinances. So, for instance, we run into a lot of houses that rental properties that people are trying to heat with electric heaters, for instance. Plug-in wall heaters. City ordinance says that the owner of the property, a rental property, must provide a heat source for that property that will keep the temperature in that house 70 degrees when it's 0 degrees outside at 3 foot off the floor. So we do have a lot of building restrictions. We have certain lean factors. If we see a property, for instance, that has a lean factor to it, and we establish the angle of the lean, and it's in excess of the city ordinance, that property owner can be cited to either remove or repair that property.
Well, Dickie, let's talk for just a second about, since you brought up a renter's issue. So if I'm renting a property and the landowner or the homeowner refuses to meet those codes, what happens to the renters? What happens to us as renters if, because if they're not going to meet those heat standards, am I just going to be kicked out of my house?
We have to follow up on a complaint. I cannot legally enter a property unless, one, I have the permission from the occupant or permission from the property owner. I have to view everything from a public source, a street, alleyway, or if an adjoining neighbor gives me permission to walk down their property line, for instance, to review that property. I can do that. So, we're very respectful of people's rights, and if people have problems with their rental properties, then they can file a complaint with my office. It's not always, though, the case that it's the property owner that is creating the violation. A lot of time, it's the renter themselves. Property owners even call me and say, hey, I need you to go by my property. So the renter of the property can be charged with a misdemeanor offense in district court. It's a criminal violation, violation of any city ordinance, just garbage and trash in the yard. We prefer not to do that. We will issue a notice of violation, ask them to clean the property up. We also send that same notice to the property owner. So if it's a rental property, both the occupant and the property owner will receive the notice of violation.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back now. You said the first step is to issue the violation.
Right.
Then if the landowner doesn't agree, then we can appeal. And let's say the appeals process we lose and, it moves forward. What's next? Okay,
well, the next step after a notice of violation, like I said, they can always disagree with me. They do nothing to the property, then I will issue a citation. Once a citation is issued, then that's when this appeals process would start. It doesn't start till the citation is issued. And they can, within 7 days, they have to appeal my decision for issuing the citation to the Code Enforcement Board, okay, which meets, we have, actually we have 2 meetings of Code Enforcement Board. We have a hearing officer who is also our chairman of the Code Enforcement Board. We meet on the 2nd Tuesday of each month, okay, and they can request to come before the hearing officer, and that is a one-man decision. He has the power to hear the complaint and to make a ruling, and carries the full force of the whole Code Enforcement Board. Or if they prefer, they can come before the whole Code Enforcement Board. That's the 4th Tuesday night or afternoon of each month at 4 o'clock at City Hall. And there are 5 members of the Code Enforcement Board, and they can make their appeal through that Code Enforcement Board. Once I issue a citation, I am out of it. When the legislators set up the code enforcement process, it kind of works like the district court process. You know, if you're out here on the street, you're speeding, you get a ticket from a police officer. That police officer gives you a ticket, and you go to district court, and your case is heard by a judge. Well, it's virtually the same way with code enforcement. Once I issue a citation, I'm out of it. Then it's up to the Code Enforcement Board whether either to let that citation stand or to expunge it, you know.
Okay. So if it stands.
Right.
Okay. So then what are we doing?
Okay.
Here?
If it stands after the appeal process, or even after the 7 days, you have 7 days to do something. If you do nothing, if you ignore it, it becomes automatic. It's not appealable. And that's 7 days from the day it's issued. I mail it to you. It's 7 days from the date of the citation.
Oh,
okay?
So maybe
not
if it
from
takes,
the date you get it.
Wow. So if it takes 3 or 4 days to get to us,
if it
then
takes 3 or 4 days, right?
we've lost that.
That's right. You've
and
actually.
Is there an explanation in the citation to tell us how to proceed with the appeals process?
Yes. Our citations are very lengthy. They're about 4 pages long.
Wow.
Carrying all the legalese language. So it's very protective of your due process rights. So if you ignore the citation, then you're subject to get a second citation. Well, the second citation, the fine doubles. Okay, so you're looking at possibly $300 in a fine for the second citation.
So a first citation is $150?
Well, it depends on the what it is. Virtually, well, we have 2 different types. We have what we call structural violations, non-structural violations. First offense on structural is $100. On non-structural, such as not mowing grass, is $75. Second violation is $200 and $150 on the second citation. Third citation then would run $300 and excuse me, lost my train of thought. No, it would be $400 and $300 on the third citations, depending on if it's a structural violation like a housing deficiency, or whether or not it's just grass. So you can get up to 3 citations. After the third citation, upon appeal by me to the Code Enforcement Board, we can file a charge against that owner. It's a misdemeanor charge, a Class A misdemeanor charge, a criminal offense with the county attorney to come up before district court. And they can be charged with a misdemeanor offense, which can carry a fine of up to $500 plus 12 months in jail for noncompliance. Also, too, in there, after the first citation is issued and somebody ignores it, I can appeal to the Code Enforcement Board for a $100 per day penalty for every day that it's not cleaned up. So, if somebody ignores the citations, after 30 days, that gets pretty expensive. It's $100 per day penalty upon my appeal to the Code Enforcement Board. And all those procedures are done through public hearings, before the Code Enforcement Board.
So it's best just to go ahead and address it when you get your citation,
yes,
huh?
Yes, it is. Yes.
That can get pretty steep, it sounds like.
Yes, it is.
So let me just clarify one thing, and then I'll let you go. But you said first, second, third citation. So I know when you're talking like structural property, it's obviously the same thing. But let's go this way. Let's say you give me my first citation. I mow my lawn. Okay, so that one's taken care of. But let's say you come by 3 or 4 weeks later and you want to give me another one because the lawn needs mowed again. Is that considered a second one? Or are we talking,
yes.
It is considered the second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So even if we've fixed the problem,
right, we
can still keep
any
going.
violation of the ordinance within 3, if you get 3 within 1 year, could trigger the habitual offender charge,
And that one, it increases, like you said a minute ago.
Well, no, I see where you're going. You're talking about with the fine structure?
Yes.
No. Each offense starts a first.
Okay.
Each offense starts a first violation. If you mow your grass, if you get a violation, you mow your grass, then that violation is done. It's complete. So yes, then with the fine structure, if I come by, say 2 weeks later and your grass is overgrown again, you issue a citation after that period of time, then it is a new
That's
offense.
Number one. Okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah,
Right.
that was my question.
Right.
And even with the structure, I guess that the same thing could happen. I fix what you say to fix, but then a month down the road, it's
Correct.
not fixed again.
Correct. So. Yes.
Okay. All right. That was my question.
Right.
Dickie, I appreciate you walking me through this process. Sounds like it's kind of a lot involved.
A lot of legalese involved.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize, we do not want people's money. We just want the town cleaned up.
Right. So you do start with a warning, though.
Yes. Everybody gets a warning on the property. Now that's unless you're a repeat offender. If I go out a month later and it's there again, I do not have to give you the notice of violation. We can just go right into the citation process, So all of it depends on the attitude of the people we're trying to deal with,
Right.
Most people, 99% of the people are very cordial, and a lot of them do not know they have violations, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they build a fence in their yard. They have no idea about the zoning laws that we have.
Which we're going to talk about. We can't today, but we're going to talk
Right.
about zoning next time you come.
Right.
I want to get into a lot of that. And you're right. I mean, I shared last time you were here. I shared my one code enforcement warning was, a couch on the steps, and first of all, I didn't know that it was an issue. But secondly, my mother had just died. I had a baby. I had a 6-year-old. I had school. I had, way too much going on. And I probably didn't handle it as well as I should have. I mean, I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't overly friendly with the guy knocking on my door telling me I needed to move my couch. I was like, tell me where to put it because I don't have a place for it.
Well, that's why we issue the
nice.
the notice of violation first to make people aware of their violations, and give them an adequate period of time to remedy the problem.
Right, and I appreciate that. And he, like I said, my code enforcement officer worked with me. He heard me cry for a minute, and then he's like, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do, and let's get this fixed.
See, this is an option of the city. When they first passed the code enforcement program, they did not have that in the language. It would have been a straight citation. And the KRS statutes allowed us to do the notice of violation, to give them a certain time period, clean properties up. So we asked the city council to redo the code enforcement program to allow the officer, to issue the notice of violation to give people the opportunity to clean properties up.
Right. You chose to be human and be nice.
Yes.
That's awesome. Dickie, I appreciate you coming. We're going to set up a time and have you come back, and we're going to talk about some zoning issues next time, okay? Thank you so much. Dickie Thomas, Code Enforcement Officer We're going to talk to local resident Chase Mitchell pretty soon about some mission work in Haiti.
Yo, we driving, yo. We living our best life and my car smells fresh.
Yeah,
but we
boy.
weren't always thriving, it was you, girl.
Told you so.
Who pointed out that smell? Now it's all fun, the odor's gone. Febreze car works so well, come on, keep driving, let's go.
Oh boy, your car smells
Febreze
nice.
car, yeah, let's go. That's right. No more odors in my ride, now let's go.
Oh yeah, we made it so nice.
Febreze car, keep riding, let's go. And now the world can sing.
Breathe happy Febreze.
La 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 la.
Hey Amy, did you know the Honda Dream Deal sales event is literally happening right now, where you can literally get great deals on certified pre-owned Hondas?
Literally? I don't trust that word anymore ever since my coworker Jerry told me he could literally eat 1,000 burritos.
Well, that's literally impossible, but there is literally a Honda Dream Deal sales event happening